All right, thank you everybody for checking out this video. We're going to learn some English for Web 3. We're going to focus on some language that we can use when we are comparing and contrasting blockchain protocols. And this expressions can be used in other types of technical English as well. Let's get it. So let's go over what we're going to learn today first. So first, we're going to look at comparatives, something called comparatives. And what these are essentially, they help you to say that something is more or less than another thing. And then we will look at superlatives, and these follow quite similar rules to comparatives, but the language structure is a little bit different, and the purpose is a little bit different. They're going to be used to help you talk about when one thing is the best or the biggest than other things being compared in the group. And it's going to be two or more things. Right? So comparatives are comparing two things. Superlatives are comparing the top one in a group of more than two. And we'll also look at another important language point, connectors. And we can use these to explain how things are similar or contrast how they're a little bit different. We're going to look at example sentences for all of these. So let's follow along and learn some English and possibly a little bit of blockchain at the same time here. So first of all, we want to know, what are comparatives? Okay. So comparatives are language points, language structures that you use when you want to compare two things in blockchain or anything else. So they can be used in a number of different situations, but we're focusing on blockchain technology in this course here. You can use them to compare things such as networks, tokens, or protocols, things like that, right? What comparatives do is they help you say that something is more or less than something else. And they're going to be comparing two things only, okay? For example, Ethereum is faster than Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is more secure than Dogecoin. Now, and when I'm using these example sentences, I'm mainly focusing on the structure. You might have a different opinion on some of these things that I'm saying here, but we're focusing mainly on the overall structure. And when we look at the structure here, we can see that we have a be verb is, and we have the adjective faster than. So A is faster than B, right? Let's take a little bit deeper look at comparatives. So as I said, there's a couple of rules that we need to know. There's at least two rules, general rules that we need to know about comparatives. The first one we're going to look at is the adjectives that have one syllable. So we look at the base adjective first, right? So for example, if we think about the word fast, fast is an adjective. Well, fast is only one sound, fast, one syllable, fast, right? So we just need to add ER because it only has one syllable, right? Now, in some other languages, if you're trying to say it in your native language, it might sound like more than one syllable, like fast, but that is not the case in English. Fast is just one sound, one syllable. Let's take a look at some examples of adjectives that are one syllable, and then we just need to add ER when we're making comparatives. Right? So we have fast becomes faster than. Cheap becomes cheaper than. And slow becomes slower than. All of these are one syllable. Fast, cheap, slow. So we just need to add the ER, and then we say than when we're comparing it to another thing. Let's take a look at how these would be in an example, some example sentences. Okay, so we might say that Solana is faster than Ethereum. We wouldn't say Solana is faster than Ethereum because that wouldn't be correct. We need to add the ER. And we also wouldn't say Solana faster than Ethereum because we need to add the be verb there as well. Okay. Polygon is cheaper than Ethereum. So we see cheaper than used here. And another example, Bitcoin is slower than Avalanche. All right. Fantastic. We can see that they all have the similar structure of a be verb, the adjective with the ER ending, and than. A is something than B. All right. Great job. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments down below, or if you want to try to make your own sentences, go ahead and give it a shot. Let's see what the next rule is here. So there's also a rule for adjectives that have 2 or more syllables, right? So if there are 2 or more syllables, we just need to add more to the multi-syllable adjectives, and we're not going to add ER at all. We're just going to add the word more plus the base adjective there, right? Let's look at some examples. So secure, 2 syllables, secure, 2, secure, 1, 2. So we would just, instead of adding ER, we're going to add more secure than. Expensive, 3 syllables, expensive, 3 syllables, so we just add more. Expensive than, we would not say expensiver because it's 2 or more syllables, all right? Efficient has 3 syllables, efficient. So it would be more efficient than. Let's look at some example sentences here. Bitcoin is more secure than most altcoins. We wouldn't say Bitcoin is securer than because that is not correct grammar. Ethereum gas fees are more expensive than Optimism's. And smart contracts are more efficient than traditional legal contracts. There we go. Fantastic. All right, so 1 syllable, we just add ER to the adjective. 2 or more syllables, we need to add more, but we don't add ER. There are some special cases with 2-syllable words that end in Y, like happy. Happy is 2 syllables, but in that case, we just drop the Y and add IER, happier. But I don't know if we would be using the adjective happy to compare two protocols in blockchain, so that may be irrelevant at this point. Let's take a look at superlatives. Sorry. Irregular verbs. We have to look at the irregular adjectives first, right? Irregular adjectives are going to be those adjectives that don't follow the syllable rules at all. And some of them don't follow those 2 rules that I just mentioned. And the 3 most common are good, bad, and far. It looks like some of them become like totally different words. So if we're making a comparative, good will become better than. Bad becomes worse than, bad becomes worse. Far changes to farther or further. It doesn't really matter which one you use. Some English teachers like to debate this online. It really doesn't matter. Farther than or further than, your choice. Let's see how these irregular adjectives will look in some example comparative sentences. Well, the first one is, Arbitrum is better than Ethereum for gas costs. Unconfirmed blocks are worse than final ones. Remember, we're just making some example sentences here. Whenever we want to get a little bit more technical, some of these sentences might be longer or more complex, but the structure of the comparatives will be the same. And layer 2 solutions go further than basic scaling. Okay. Good job. Good job so far. Here we go. Let's take a look at what we need to do if we're comparing more than 2 protocols or platforms. So we'll have to ask ourselves in this case, what are superlatives? Well, Superlatives help you talk about one thing that is the best, the biggest, or the most in a group of two or more. We use them when comparing three or more things, right? For example, Solana is the fastest blockchain. So in this case, we're comparing Solana to all the other available blockchains, and we're making the statement that we believe the Solana among them is the fastest. Or we might say Bitcoin is the most secure. Now, I'm going to say that superlatives follow very similar rules as comparatives when we're talking about the one syllable or two or more syllable rules. The difference is if it's a one syllable, we're just going to add the plus est. If it's two or more syllables, instead of adding more, we're going to say the most. If it's a little bit confusing, don't worry. We're going to look at some more examples on this right now. So, as I mentioned, superlatives follow very similar rules to comparatives as far as syllable count goes. So if we have one syllable adjectives, we're just, instead of adding er, we're going to add est and the word the. Instead of saying Solana is faster than some other blockchain, we're comparing more than two things together. So we have to say Solana is the fastest blockchain that we have tested. Polygon has the cheapest gas fees. Bitcoin is the slowest among these networks. Once again, cheap, fast, and slow have one syllable, so we just add est to the end. And when we add est, we need to add the in front because it's only one. Of all the items in the group that we're comparing, only one is the cheapest, and that is Polygon here in our example. For two-syllable adjectives, instead of adding more in front of the adjective, we're going to add the most this time. Bitcoin is the most secure blockchain. Ethereum is the most expensive network. Smart contracts are the most flexible part of Web3. So secure, expensive, and flexible all have two or more syllables. If it's a superlative, we're going to add the most in front of there. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments down there below. We'll try to get it worked out. Just try to remember there, if you're comparing only two, Solana is faster than Ethereum, for example. If we're comparing more than two, Solana is the fastest, right? Just as with comparatives, superlative also have some irregular adjective forms too. We already know they don't follow the rules. We know that for comparatives, it's good, better, bad, worse, far, farther, further. But for superlative irregulars, remember we need to add a different form. So let's take a look at them. So good becomes the best, bad becomes the worst, and far becomes the farthest or furthest. Let's take a look at some examples here. So we might say Arbitrum is the best for fast and cheap transactions. This protocol had the worst uptime last year, so maybe in this case we are comparing three or more protocols, and we want to know about their uptime. Which protocol had the worst, and we can say it. And this node is the farthest from the server. Good. Okay, we're going to look at one more grammar point right quick here. Thank you for sticking with me to this point. This is also an important one. They are called connectors. So connectors, we use them when you want to explain how things are similar or different. We're not really comparing the biggest or which one is bigger or the best like that. We're just going to say that they're either similar or they're different in some kind of way. And in this case, we don't need comparatives and superlatives. We need to use connectors to connect those two ideas. Okay, let's look at the two main types that we need to know for right now. If we want to compare, we're going to show similarities. Okay, and if we want to contrast, we're going to show differences. So we're either going to show similarities or we're going to show differences. All right, let's look at some examples of this. So if we want to compare or show similarities between two protocols, we could say both Solana and Arbitrum have fast transaction speeds. Now, we're not comparing them to say which one is better. We're just comparing them to show how they're similar. Both and are or have some kind of adjective, okay? In the same way as Bitcoin, Litecoin uses proof of work. So here I'm saying that both of these protocols use the same super resistant mechanism. They're proof of work. Now, if we want to contrast things to show how they're different, we are going to use a slightly different language, slightly different connectors. For example, Ethereum is more secure. On the other hand, Solana is faster. So in this situation, it looks like I'm comparing and contrasting Solana. So I'm saying that Solana is more secure. I'm going back to the comparative. But I also want to express a difference, right? On the other hand, Solana is faster. So in this case, we can clearly see that we're using the connectors and comparatives together, and that's okay. Another example, ZK Sync error is an L2 chain. By contrast, Solana is an L1. So by contrast, it's saying, hey, this is different than that. There are several more examples that I have listed on the actual course on Fluent Dev. You can check out the link down in the description and go read about those. Try to make your own sentences and take the quiz. All right, as I always have, I always like to have some kind of learning challenge, right? It's very important when we're learning something new, or if we're just brushing up on our skills, we have to do it for it to stick. We have to do things or try to explain things for learning to really happen. So let's get started. The learning challenge for today is I want you to think of two protocols or platforms that you know fairly well. And prepare to compare and contrast them using the language we've learned. Practice your new English skills by writing your answer in the comments below. Okay, thank you once again for checking out this video. I really appreciate your time and feedback on this. And remember, always be learning, okay? You can teach if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, right? But if you teach a man to fish, he can eat every day. Always be learning. Let's get it.